The mother of all bombs.
It is the largest bomb in the Air Force arsenal.
We targeted a system of tunnels and caves that ISIS fighters used.
Years of pacificity are over.
Donald Trump is saying, look, if you are our enemy, we are going to find you and we are going to kill you.
We have a threat. We've promised to deal with it, and we're dealing with it right now.
It's time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is. Assange is a narcissist who has created nothing of value. He's a fraud, a coward hiding behind a screen.
100% false. It's fabrication.
Assad is basically asking the world to believe him rather than our lying eyes that have all seen these videos.
What happened to my dad should have never happened to any human being.
This lawsuit, hopefully, will create a not just national discussion, but international.
Can't hear you through the glass, but we'll see. We'll read your lips.
We'll wave to you.
Right. I think it's also important. You just pointed out, too, you have that press conference with that lawyer for the United Airlines passenger that's dragged out the plane. Longer than General Mattis's press conference earlier in the week, explaining why we use 59 Tomahawk missiles. But the guy was really enjoying his moment in the sun.
That's
a little
exactly
bit too
right.
much.
The attorney?
All right, he's
dreaming of his payday.
Yeah, obviously he's going to get a big one.
He's going to get paid a lot. His daughter's so adorable. She's cute. All right, well, we start with this. A Fox News alert. 3 dozen ISIS militants dead. They were killed when the U.S. unleashed the mother of all bombs, 22,000 pounds of dynamite.
It is a show of force heard around the world this morning. Our own Leland Vitter live from the White House with the latest on that. Leland, good morning.
Brian Ainsley and Pete, good morning to you. The symbolism of this is certainly not lost on the White House here. This bomb is uniquely suited to clear out the cave complex that ISIS fighters had taken over there in eastern Afghanistan. About 22,000 pounds. In the words of one U.S. official, they kicked it out the back of a plane, a C-130 there just along the border. This is video of when this bomb was originally tested, and you can see the blast radius is about a mile. That cloud is going to go about 10,000 feet in the air. And equally important to the fireball here is how it sucks all of the oxygen out of the area where it explodes. So it penetrates down in terms of its killing ability into a cave complex like the one there in Afghanistan that ISIS had taken over. The Wall Street Journal reports that that cave complex was originally used as a gem mine and now is being used by ISIS as a staging area and a military compound. Rather, I should say, was used as a military staging compound there for ISIS. The president alluded to the idea that he wasn't necessarily personally involved in the decision to drop the bomb, but certainly was pleased with the result.
We have the greatest military in the world, and they've done a job as usual. So we have given them total authorization, and that's what they're doing. And frankly, that's why they've been so successful lately. If you look at what's happened over the last 8 weeks and compare that really to what's happened over the last 8 years, you'll see there's a tremendous difference.
And there were a lot of questions about what message this might send to North Korea. The president said he didn't know what message it sent, but certainly the White House here, as they worry about North Korea, is looking towards this weekend when there is a rumored possible North Korean nuclear test planned. Guys, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Leland. So it's pretty astounding, number one, that we're in the Tora Bora region, I guess these 2 provinces, and there's still a network of caves out there. Didn't we handle this in 2001? Number 2, that ISIS feels as though they can infiltrate back into that area. For those who say, why are we still in Afghanistan? We'd be back in there had we left earlier. And finally, when you look at what's happening in that area, only 36 dead. I think a substantial thing has taken place in a message sent. But I'm astounded to see that Russia and Iran are now having a meeting about the future of Afghanistan when we're the ones who've been there for 15 years. They're actually having a session about the future, meeting with Taliban officials about a new Afghan government.
What do you think about it?
Well, because we've been headed for the... Yeah, I served there in 2011, 2012. We've been headed for the exits in Afghanistan under Barack Obama for a long time, sending signals that we're not as interested in finding a solution there. And it is a difficult solution. Look at Nangarhar province where this happened. Over 1,000 ISIS fighters housed there right now. They have free reign to attack. We lost a Green Beret IRA there a couple of days ago. So the Pentagon is claiming this wasn't a direct response to that, but in some ways I really think it was. And if you watch other networks...
The Wall Street Journal has a quote from an unnamed source, and the Pentagon says it was.
Of course, you think President Trump isn't saying they take one of ours, we're going to give it back to them even more. But the other networks are making this about who authorized it, who authorized it. Doesn't matter.
I think it's cool that he says the generals authorized this, the military. They're the boots on the ground. They're the ones that can make the decisions. I look to them. They're the experts. I'm not.
Precisely correct. And the military loves that too. All you want is decision-making pushed down to the closest level to unleash and empower commanders who really know what it takes to destroy the enemy. You've got this kind of ordinance. The general on the ground says, I want to use it because I've got an area that I can't touch with guys unless I'm going to lose Americans. Yeah. So you save American lives by dropping a bomb like this.
Well, the president was on the campaign trail. He said, I'm going to bomb the blank out of ISIS. He's doing that, killing these, how many was it, 36 ISIS members, ISIS fighters?
And that's reported by the Afghan government. It could be a lot more than that, too.
All right. Well, it's a start, at least. Yep. And Sebastian Gorka, who is a terrorist expert, he also works for Donald Trump. He was agreeing with him. He said this is totally different. Remember the president in that clip we just showed? The president said the last 8 weeks have been totally different than the last 8 years. And Gorka agrees. Listen to this.
If you read the memoirs of Secretary Gates, of Secretary Panetta, it's stunning. Obama's own principals, their own secretaries, talk about NSC meetings that last for 3 to 4 hours with nobody taking a decision. That was the last 8 years. That was the reality of the red lines. Along comes President Trump. That's gone. We have a threat. We've promised to deal with it, and we're dealing with it right now.
And Secretary of Defense Hagel, same thing. So you just drive him nuts. Hagel was a Vietnam veteran, would sit there whether he thought he was great or terrible as Secretary of Defense and say, can we make a decision? He'd see a bunch of these 30-somethings sitting there talking hypothetically about war, and they leave and go with absolutely no decision made. It was driving him crazy.
That's exactly right. It's the idea of an academic-based ivory tower foreign policy where they want to please everybody and make political calculations versus a belief in America that America needs to lead and that we need to viciously destroy and kill our enemies who want to viciously destroy us. So use what you have at your disposal, and in this case, we did.
So what's the Democrats' reaction to all this? Elizabeth Warren weighs in. And please, put on your thinking cap.
As is the case with every part of Trump's foreign policy, we're all trying to understand, what is the strategy? If we can't figure out what it means, it's sort of hard to make that a message. One of the things we want to know is what was the impact on civilians. I think it's powerfully important. You know, you go back to General McChrystal talking about the importance of knowing who gets killed in these attacks, because that's the real question about our future safety. Who's going to be out there fighting us in the future?
Those are some excellent questions. Let me answer them for you. I'll tell you, he doesn't want to release his strategy. He's told us he's not going to tell us what his plans are for the evil dictators in other countries. He also, I can tell you this, though, I think his strategy would be to kill people who want to kill us. And we need to prevent them from coming over here, and we need to keep America safe. And that's why people went to the polls to vote for him.
That's right. Another answer is 0 civilian casualties is what's been reported so far. But it's a reflexive desire to blame America or find blame or fault in our actions. I also love how the left loves, if they quote the name of a general, then they must be smart. So it's like, I'm going to throw General McChrystal in there. Listen, General McChrystal is a counterinsurgency expert, one of the best generals we have. But if you understand counterinsurgency, which is what we're not conducting right now in Afghanistan, then the idea of civilian casualties is changed and the impact of those civilian casualties. But even the failing New York Times falls in line predictably, saying this attack risks backlash. You know, of course, the subtext is we kill a bunch of ISIS fighters with an ordinance that we have, but what's the backlash going to be against us?
We've got 8,400 people fighting a two-front war between the Taliban and ISIS. Sometimes ISIS fights the Taliban, and all the time they're looking to fight us.
Yes.
Meanwhile, one of the people that we hit with 59 Tomahawks is Syria, Bashir Assad. So he was saying that he didn't use chemical weapons, or if they did use chemical weapons, it was the insurgents that used it. But now listen to his latest explanation to what took place leading up to the U.S. response.
The United States is hand in glove with the terrorists. They fabricated the whole story. We don't know whether those dead children, were they killed in Khan Sheikhoun, were they dead at all?
Were those children dead at all?
He's saying they could have been child actors. Literally, is what he said in the interview.
We saw the video. We interviewed someone on our show right after that said he had lived through one of these attacks, a sarin gas attack, and he said he watched all of his family members die.
This is what dictators do. They lie and deceive because they've got no other option. And, you know, the general folks that have reacted to the Moab in Afghanistan have said this is a tactical issue in Afghanistan. Of course it is. But it also sends a clear message, no doubt, around the world, to North Korea, to Syria, Bashar al-Assad, even the Iranians. We're willing to use the weapons we have to prevent terrible things from happening in this world. Take note. And I think they are taking note.
And I think some of those kids were 1 year old, 1.5. I don't think they're child actors. They don't know how to act.
That there should have been a laugh track in that comment if it wasn't so serious. Right. And, you know, listen, General Mattis got ahead of the whole thing, explained exactly what went into it. 2 days later, the Russians had their explanation, and now 3 days later, that yesterday was laughable.
It's an open and shut case, which is why we have real leverage over Russia as it pertains to Syria, which is what I think. This is where the Trump administration is thinking very strategically.